Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. Late night had some fun with former President Trump suggesting that first President George Bush, quote, took millions of documents to a former bowling alley and former Chinese restaurant. James Corden nailed it. He said, I demand an investigation because is it just me or does a combination bowling alley / Chinese restaurant sound incredible? Corden, I think I see what Trump's trying to do here. Does he think fortune cookies are secret documents? Meanwhile, Columbus Day made for a bunch of good jokes. Jimmy Fallon said, well, guys, if you watch MSNBC, I want to say happy Indigenous Peoples Day. And if you watch Fox News, I want to say happy Columbus Day. Jimmy Kimmel said, not only is it Columbus Day, it's also Indigenous Peoples Day, which is what it should be probably, but we have to pick one or the other, right? That's like saying it's Arbor Day and Chainsaw Day. It can't be both. Fallon, that's right. 530 years ago, Columbus went on a trip and never made it to his intended destination. Today, we call that flying Southwest Airlines. Kimmel, the guy had one job, get to India. He missed it by 9,000 miles, but rather than admit he was wrong and not in India, he just started calling everyone Indians, which is so willfully ignorant. If he were alive today, he could probably run the Republican Party. If you're being honest with yourself, Columbus is basically what would have happened if Donald Trump had been born in the 1400s and his dad gave him a boat. From Yahoo, comedians Andre and Clayton English are challenging a police program at the Atlanta airport they say violates the constitutional rights of airline passengers, particularly black passengers, through racial profiling and coercive searches just as they're about to board their flights. Lawyers for the two comics filed a lawsuit in federal court in Atlanta alleging they were racially profiled and illegally stopped by Clayton County police at the Atlanta airport. Andre, in an interview, said, people were gawking at me and I looked suspicious when I'd done nothing wrong. He called the experience dehumanizing and demoralizing. So, according to the lawsuit, the officers take the passengers' boarding passes and ID and interrogate them, sometimes searching their bags before they board the flights. Let's take a look at the numbers. Police records show from August 30th, 2020 to April 30th, 2021, there were 402 jet bridge stops. Of those 402 stops, the passengers' race was listed for 378 of the stops. Of those 378, 211, which is 56% of the passengers, were black. In a statement, the department says during the encounter, Mr. Andre voluntarily provided the investigators information as to his travel plans. Mr. Andre also voluntarily consented to a search of his luggage, but the investigators chose not to do so. Andre said, I have the resources to bring national attention and international attention to this incident. It's not an isolated incident. If black people don't speak up for each other, who will? From the Belfast Telegraph, say it with me, you're home for comedy news. Jimmy Carr's father is said to be suing his son over a joke that crossed the line. Okay, now I've already done this story for the weekly comedy thing and it gets confusing. When I say Jimmy Carr, I mean the comedian. And when I say Jim Carr, I mean the dad. You got your notepad there? Okay, Jim is the dad, Jimmy is the comedian. Jim Carr read Jimmy Carr's book Before and Laughter. In the book, Jimmy Carr joked about his parents. In June, Jim Carr criticized the book, in which Jimmy Carr wrote, I'm the son of two immigrants from Limerick who moved to Slough. They moved from another crap town to another crap town. I guess they knew what they liked. Jim Carr told the Limerick leader at that time that his son had crossed the line and found the comments to be so derogatory and offensive, he called on the Limerick mayor to revoke an honor awarded to Jimmy Carr in 2013. In 2013, Jimmy Carr was given a Certificate of Irish Heritage Award, which hailed descendants of previous generations of Irish citizens in an official way. According to the Mirror, a source said that Jim Carr has now described his son's comments as lies and has reportedly decided to sue him for defamation in an attempt to end the nonsense. Jim Carr previously won an out-of-court settlement of £12,000 from the Sunday Telegraph following an interview with Jimmy Carr that his father said was defamatory. This was in 2006. Jim Carr said, my son has made false statements about me to various newspapers and even to the police. I have received apologies or damages from all concerned. Save my son. Last year, Jimmy Carr said, you know the line, my mother's dead, my father's dead to me? It sounds very cold until you meet the guy. From the Idaho Statesman, almost a year after being labeled a terrorist by Indian authorities, Veer Das is coming to Boise. He'll play the Egyptian Theater tomorrow. Das went viral last year after giving a 6-minute To India speech at the Kennedy Center in D.C., which he described the divisions in his home country. I come from an India where we have the largest working population under 30 on the planet, but still listen to 75-year-old leaders with 150-year-old ideas. I come from an India where we take pride in being vegetarians and yet run over the farmers who grow our vegetables. All right, what can you expect from this show? This show will take you around the world and bring you back home, wherever your home happens to be. It's a show that will take you to India. If you haven't been to India, it's a chance to come and experience it. Tickets on sale, $39.50 to $89. And this has been a pretty negative first half, Johnny Mac, so let's lighten it up. Joe Pera has donated over $11,000 to the CLK schools in Michigan. The choir teacher there said Joe Pera said goodbye to his TV show, Joe Pera Talks With You. He held 3 screenings in New York City at the Bell House in Brooklyn, and he donated all of the proceeds to our music program here. Why? He kind of based the character off the music programs there, and I think that's really cool. Pera donated $11,613 to the Calumet Public School music program. I'm going to take a minute here and do some homework on the show. Dan Bublitz Jr., friend of the show, hit me on Facebook and said, hey. Well, he didn't say hey. I forget how he phrased it. Dan, you know how you phrased it. I'm just talking the way one does on mic. Dan said something like, hey, Minnesota Comedy Festival is actually the 10,000 Laughs Comedy Festival. Oh, okay, cool, thanks. Now, I was watching TV on Monday night. I was catching up on House of the Dragon. By the way, I'm watching House of the Dragon, catching up for 2 hours. Nobody's bothering me, sitting in the basement, enjoying myself. And then my wife came down. If you've seen the show, you know what I'm talking about. But it was basically, if I were watching The Sopranos, it was like my wife showed up as Meadow was parking the car. And she showed up with the laundry basket and starts talking to me. And I had to hit pause. And I talked to her. She did the laundry. And it's like 5 minutes later, I got back into the show, right in the middle of Meadow parking the car. And then there was like a minute left. I was like, come on, just let me watch TV, will you? Anyway, while I was watching House of the Dragon, I got a text from a friend of mine, and he was like, dude, what's with the crazy political ads on your show? I forget if that's how he phrased it. I have your text here, friend, and he knows who he is. He wrote, what's up with the far-right political ads on your show? And I explained to him that the ads aren't picked by me. They are dynamically inserted at your location. You know, and then we started talking about fantasy football. Then a couple minutes later, I got an email from a listener who was quite upset. She apparently got some very right-wing ads as well. I definitely don't want the ads offending people. Look, I'm a capitalist. I'm running commercials in the middle of the show, not hiding that at all. But I don't want like crazy town ads that are having people so angry that they're texting me and emailing me. So I have turned the political ads off. But how it works is at the moment you download the show, your phone goes, okay, where is Shirley? Shirley is in Connecticut, and then you'll get some Connecticut-related ads. So over the weekend, I was in Illinois, so when I listened back to the playback on Sunday, I had some Illinois-based ads I normally don't get. This morning, I got an ad for a healthcare something and sports betting, but I'm back in New Jersey this morning. So I guess in these two instances, the listeners were in states that are very politically charged, and the political advertising is out there this time of year. And again, I'm not out to tick anybody off, so I've turned that off. So that's what happened there. Tonight is trivia night. So if you want to buy me 5/7 of a beer, what you can do is you can go to buymeacoffee.com/Daily Comedy News, and you can throw $5 in the tip jar. I will take your $5. I will go to the Glenbrook Brewery. I will meet up with my friend Glenn, who has nothing to do with Glenbrook other than Glenn is at Glenbrook, and we will play trivia, and I will take your $5, and I'll be like, hey, let me get a Morristown Ale. And then they'll be like, that's $7.50, and I'll use your $5. And I guess I'll have to pay for the rest myself. It's hard podcasting in the basement, especially when you don't run political ads. Makes money. Buymeacoffee.com/Daily Comedy News. And the trivia guys, and I know the trivia guys listen. Last week was brutal. So the first round's multiple choice is 8 questions. Almost everybody gets an 8. Then the second round, I love the second round because there's always a theme. So if you don't know what an answer is, you kind of wait and hope you can figure out the theme. 2 weeks ago, the theme was, they were all hockey teams. Last week, the theme was they were all Sopranos characters, and that helped me. I forget, it was some lyric from a musical, and I'm like, I don't know what that is. And then I figured out that the answer must be Meadow, and then I'm all happy with myself. Then the third round, we got our butts kicked, and we finished in like 9th place because these trivia guys keep asking questions for the millennials, and we're old. I don't know this music from 2000. I haven't seen any movies. I'm in the basement just trying to watch House of the Dragons. Trivia guys, I'll get in. Ask some questions about Tom Petty or the 86 Mets, will ya? Buymeacoffee.com/Daily Comedy News. Ryan Reynolds comes up on the podcast 2 days in a row. If you had that in the pool, congratulations. You just won $5. Ryan Reynolds announced on Monday that he and Colin Hanks are working on a nonfiction film about John Candy. Ryan Reynolds wrote on Twitter, with John Candy trending, I'll just say I love him. So much so, Maximum Effort is working on a documentary on his life with Colin Hanks. Expect tears. A rep for Reynolds gave a statement to People saying the Candy family is giving Maximum Effort, that's a company, access to his archive and home video footage. That's a good time. And Dirt.com is catching up on Tim Dillon's real estate stuff. Now, why am I doing this story? Here's why. I listen to Tim Dillon's podcast every day, and as I said before, it's very funny, and he's eventually going to step on a landmine, and I'm going to deny telling you that I ever said you should listen to Tim Dillon's podcast. I'm going to distance myself so fast, it's going to be crazy. But there was an episode a few months back where the New York Post speculated on Tim Dillon's real estate, and Tim kind of lost his mind on his podcast about it. So I'm hoping he loses his mind about this story from Dirt.com, who writes, Tim Dillon really loves real estate. Last summer, the former mortgage broker turned irreverent podcaster and comedian bought a $900,000 house in Austin, Texas. A year later, he was reported to have acquired a $4 million home in Southampton, New York, though he publicly disputed the figure. Well, scarcely 4 months after his residential splurge in the Hamptons, Tim Dillon has inked his priciest deal to date, $4.6 million. For a cliff-top house sold to him by Silicon Valley actor Thomas Middleditch, who had bought the place for $4.5 million only a year ago from Meet Joe Black film actress Claire Forlani. The Tim Dillon Show reportedly helps the 37-year-old rake in more than $200,000 a month in Patreon income. Think about that. When you're buying me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/dailycomedynews, you guys would have to buy me 40,000 coffees, and I would be pretty wired and probably have to pee. As for Tim Dillon's new LA home, the somewhat oddball structure was originally built in the early 70s, though later remodeled. Today, the European Villa meets Spanish hacienda-style residence includes nearly 3,000 square feet of contemporary living space, complete with 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. Hey, even I have 2 bathrooms in this house. There's also a separate guest cottage, which I do not have, detached from the single-story main house that would likely make an ideal podcast studio. Just go in your basement. Your basement's fine, except on Tuesdays when your wife does laundry. But plan ahead. Record 2 on Monday. It can be done. Other amenities include a backyard pool with a wraparound brick terrace to grassy lawns, and a pergola-shaped stone patio. The master bedroom offers direct access to the pool, and the property's dramatic views capture a big swath of the San Fernando Valley skyline and the surrounding hills. Tim Dillon, I look forward to your comments on the article from Dirt.com. And that's your comedy news for today. Follow the show for free on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, wherever you get your shows. See you tomorrow.